Breakfast with Refilwe Moloto.
We all have a voice. Use yours. Call 021 446 0567.
Join the conversation.
On Cape Talk.
I hope your ear is okay. We are very excited. Prue Leith is in studio with us. Good morning.
Good morning, Refilwe.
Prue Leith has been at the top of the food scene for almost 60 years. She's seen huge success, not only as founder of the renowned Leith's School of Food and Wine, but also as a Michelin-starred restaurateur, caterer, chef, teacher, TV cook, food journalist, novelist, cookery book author. I'd like to just say businesswoman extraordinaire. And she's also been a leading figure in campaigns to improve food in schools, hospitals, and in the home. She's well known to many of you as a judge on the Great British Menu, but now she is a fixture on one of the world's favorite TV programs, of course, the Great British Bake Off. The best part about Prue is that she was born right here in Cape Town.
I was born in Rondebosch.
Oh, my word. And she returns home today. Good morning and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us on Breakfast with Refilwe.
Do you know, it's lovely to be here, and it's particularly just lovely to be in the Cape. I just adore it.
How often do you come back here?
Well, quite often, because I have, the Prue Leith Chef's Academy.
I want to ask you about that just now, yes.
Which is in Pretoria, Centurion. And so I come back to see how they're getting on quite a lot. And also I have a flat in the waterfront. So I do come quite a lot.
Okay, so you're here for about 2 weeks, is that right?
Yeah.
And please tell us a little bit about what brings you home on this particular occasion.
Well, the main reason is I wanted to have my birthday here.
Ah.
And I'm going to be 80 years old. You know, you went on about...
No.
I am. And you know... You said I'd done so many things, but that's just because I've lived for so long. I've had lots and lots of time to do it.
There are a lot of people with idle hands for that much time, so you've definitely made the most of it.
So anyway, I thought that would be fun. And so we're going to have a competition at the Chef's Academy, and they're going to, the public and chefs and professionals and everybody are submitting their birthday cake recipes, and then the best one is going to be chosen, and I'm going to eat it, I tell you.
You should. You absolutely should. I mean, what does make the quintessential cake?
I think it's accuracy of, first of all, you need a good recipe, and secondly, you need to follow it exactly. You know, with hot cooking, you can experiment and you can change things and you can do all sorts of things. To be creative with cakes, you need to be a really knowledgeable baker.
Yeah.
But there are so many good recipes. You can turn out a really good cake just by doing what it says.
Well, this is the thing about baking. I always say I'm a great cook, but not a great baker, because I like to colour outside the lines. I like to try new things every time I make the same dish, but a little differently. But the discipline of baking is something that's extraordinary to hold on to at the same time as being creative. What do you think?
But it's wonderful, because if you see top bakers like Paul Hollywood, I mean, he still measures everything. Yeah. Probably not for bread, because you can tell by the texture how you know, if you need a bit more water or a bit less. But if he is making a cake, he'll measure every single thing. And of course, he's one of the top bakers in the world. So you just have to do that. But then, of course, you can get creative with the flavouring and the icing or all sorts of things. But I mean, I'm a better cook than I am a baker, because like you, I tend to splash things in a merry manner.
Well, I'm excited about that. Okay, so 18th of Feb. Thank you, Wikipedia, is your birthday.
Yes.
So we're excited to celebrate that. Okay, so we're going to call that Prue Day, Stefan.
Prue Day.
It's Prue Day. All right. We're going to be very prudential that day. Okay, so talk to me a little bit about the Academy. I'd be very curious to hear a bit more. We don't actually have, I mean, of course, we do have the regular culinary schools, but for whom is the Prue Leith Chef's Academy targeted at?
Well, we're trying to turn out professional chefs for the industry. And about 20 years ago, I had my school in London, which is called Leith School of Food and Wine. And I had lots and lots of students come to me who had left the academy and were doing well, who said, we would like to open a Leith school in Hong Kong or the US or somewhere. And I always said no, because I felt I wouldn't be able to control it, and it would get out of hand, and it might sort of mar my reputation. And so then when this bunch of South African hoteliers turned up in my office and said, we want to do a chef's academy in South Africa, I thought, well, A, I'm South African, so I would love to do that. And B, at the time, 20 years ago, South African food and tourism was really in quite a bad state, and training wasn't good, and there were a lot of sort of European head chefs who were very sort of authoritarian, old-fashioned and bullying. So it wasn't much fun to work in a kitchen, and I just felt we needed to change the culture. And so I thought I'd love to do that. And because they were professionals and they realised the importance of it, they would fly me out to, first of all, I helped with the curriculum.
In the first place, yes.
We designed it together, and now I don't have very much to do with it because I don't need to. It's just such a good college.
That's incredible.
It's wonderful.
All right, so great to know that you are out here from time to time to check in on them. Cooking, baking, those are not the areas that, of course, you're necessarily defined by entirely. The first thing I want to just say is, if I think of you, I associate you with colour, which I'm really glad is reflected today. And then there is this new area, or maybe it's new to me at least, area of business that you've branched into, which is your eyewear.
Yes,
Tell us a little bit about that, and they look beautiful.
Thank you.
And colourful.
And colourful, yeah. Well, you know what? I've always worn colourful specs as far as I could because I like colour. And I just never understand why women don't wear more colour because, especially in winter when it's miserable, that's when you should be wearing red or yellow and, feeling cheerful.
Quite right.
But my thing about specs is that women spend a fortune on shoes and handbags. And where do they live their lives? In a cupboard or under the table. You hardly ever see them. When somebody walks into a restaurant, you might get a glimpse of their shoes or their handbag, and then thereafter, you don't see it again.
Quite right.
So my thing is you should spend money on necklaces and specs because they're bang on your face, and that's what you always look at people's faces.
Agreed.
So I now have a range of specs. They're called Prue at first, but if you just put Prue's glasses in, they'll come up. And you can buy them in optometrists in South Africa. And every one of them has at least 4 colours in it. So the difference between mine and the range I wore before, which are made by the same manufacturer, is that the woman who designs them used to hand paint every one, and that made them very expensive.
Oh, wow.
But when I came into the scene, I said, look, can't we get these a bit more affordable?
Yes.
So these are made in factory, but I can't tell the difference, to be honest. And
the machines are coming for us, Prue. They can do just as well as we can.
Anyway, she doesn't have to hand paint them anymore.
Yes.
And so it's been tremendously successful, and they're in America and Australia and everywhere.
Incredible. All right. So I agree with you on eyewear. I love handbags for sure, shoes and eyewear, mostly because you can never sort of outgrow them. Like there are lots of pairs of jeans that I've outgrown. All right, so here's a message from one of our listeners I wanted to share with you. Dean says, we've been living off Prue recipes since gifting our 12-year-old one of her cooking books over Christmas. How wonderful is that? There's a person as young as 12 who's able to respond to your cookbook.
Do you know the most amazing effect of Bake Off has been the number of children who watch it? I mean, when we started it, or when it was started 10 years ago, I wasn't in it then, nobody thought there'd be a children's audience. It was for grown-ups. And it has the biggest children's audience, bigger than the children's programs.
Impressive. And do you think that is the kind of thing that prompted the sort of MasterChef youngster, sort of the junior MasterChef?
Probably. And we now have a junior bake-off, which I judged this year. But I had just busted my Achilles tendon.
On we are
Bake-Off
sisters
set.
in Achilles tendons. Okay.
On the Bake-Off set, I was dressed up as a lion. On the yellow brick road,
yes,
Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
Well, I was the cowardly lion. Sandy was the scarecrow. Paul Hollywood was the Tin Man without a heart, which you'll understand. And
brilliant.
And Noel, of course, was Dorothy, dressed up to dress. And I had to jump onto the yellow brick road growling, and it was an opening link, sort of funny little link for the new show. And we were filming it right at the end of the show, and I just felt as if somebody had bashed my ankle with a hammer, and I'd bust my Achilles tendon. So then I had to go on and do Junior Bake Off, which we filmed the next month.
Yes.
On crutches and in a wheelchair, which is rather humiliating. However, the children were fine; they didn't mind.
All right. And you're fully recovered.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
all
fine
that
now.
matters. All right, we're going to continue this conversation. If you're just joining us, we're speaking to the inimitable Prue Leith, who is here, the force of food. Please send in your questions if you have any for Prue. It's 8:17. We'll be right back after this. All right, so we have been in studio at the moment talking to Prue Leith, and we've got a number of our guests. Hello. Clap yourselves. Thank you so much to our listeners who've joined us to be in conversation with Prue Leith, who is the force of food at the moment. We've been talking about a number of things. We've spoken about a range of your business ventures, the Cooking Academy in Pretoria. We've spoken about your cooking, your participation in the Great British Bake Off. We've spoken about the feats of baking and cooking. We've spoken about the specs, which I want to come back to. Thank you very much for showing these. It's an incredible range. To those of you who are wondering, I can't help myself but try each and every one of them.
There's 72 of them. I don't think you're going to
I'll never get through, unfortunately not. But the other thing I want to talk to you about is in relation to one of these things that is so close to everybody's heart amongst the messages that are coming through for you, which is obviously the cooking. As you said, you're much more of a cook than you are. And what we're expecting very soon is The Vegetarian Kitchen by Prue and Peter Leith. Tell us about this book.
Well, it's my 14th cookbook, but the first time I wrote a vegetarian book was in fact about 25 years ago.
Okay.
And do you know that my publishers would not let me call it The Vegetarian Kitchen because they said the word vegetarian would ensure that you would not sell a single copy.
What a different world.
What a different world.
Wow.
So now I keep getting accused of jumping on a bandwagon because I'm not vegetarian at all. But it's nonsense. I've just always loved vegetarian food as well as meat.
That's right.
So anyway, it's a book, and I did it with my niece. My niece is vegetarian.
Yes.
And she's also the Ivy Group's pastry chef. So she's a top pastry chef. So I thought, well...
How long has she been there?
Well, she just left because she's got 2 young babies, but she's been about 6 years now.
Okay, so I have tasted her food. I'm just glad to know. Go ahead.
No, she's a great pastry chef.
Yes.
But anyway, so we decided to do this book together, and I thought she'd do rather fancy, those exquisite little puddings that you get in smart restaurants.
Yes.
But not a bit of it. She's got 2 young toddlers, and it's a family book. I mean, it just turned out I like very simple food. Mm-hmm. My husband sometimes accuses me of, he says, 10 out of 10 for flavour, 4 out of 10 for presentation. Because I tend to just... My sort of philosophy about the whole matter is that if the food is beautifully cooked and the ingredients were lovely, all you need to do is cook it and put it on the plate, and it'll sell itself.
Yes.
You don't need to fiddle around making it look fancy with micro herbs and little dots
and
of this, that, and that, and foams and drizzles and all that nonsense. So it's a very simple book. But it has some quite original things in it. And, of course, it's all veggie. So...
where can we pick this up at the moment? Is it available at the likes of Exclusive
It won't
Book,
be until next month, unfortunately.
Okay.
It's... I've lived a long life in publishing, and I have never quite known publishers get the publicity tour and the arrival of the books quite... I once went to Australia and went all round, and there wasn't a single book in the country.
Oh, my word.
That wasn't very good. But this will be with us next month. And in the meantime, there's another book called Prue, but just called Prue. And I'm very proud of that. That's not vegetarian. That's a mixture.
Well, I'm excited. Tell us about some of the key sort of dishes that are in Prue, because obviously this, if you're calling it Prue, I'm guessing it's your quintessential dishes.
Yeah, it was the first cookbook I'd written for 25 years, because I stopped writing cookery years ago in order to write novels.
Yes.
And I wrote 8 novels in that time and an autobiography. Right. I always got to write something. Writing is a disease.
It is.
If
you need to chronicle.
You've got to do it. Anyway, so I didn't really want to write a cookbook. And then when I was on Bake Off, because I'm a fairly commercial lady, I thought, there's this whole new audience who've never heard of me. Yeah. Because I had, I'd been at home writing novels. I hadn't been on telly. I sort of thought I'd stopped all that stuff. And then I thought, there's this whole new audience who've never heard of me. And so I got more and more into food because the bakers are so good, and Great British Menu, the chefs were so good. So finally I thought, I've got to get in here and start writing.
Fantastic.
So I did Prue, and But I mean, I'm just looking at the vegetarian kitchen, and I mean, nearly all the dishes are just things that you would normally do, but perhaps with just something slightly different about them. I mean, everybody knows how to make a sweet corn fritter,
yes,
for example. But this is a pea, mint, and goat's cheese one. And the combination of peas and goat's cheese, and obviously mint goes with peas, is just delicious. And there's a shakshuka here, which a lot of people won't know. It's a Turkish dish, but all it really is cooked down tomatoes and peppers, and with a lot of garlic, a bit of aubergine, and you just cook it down until you've got this sort of stew.
That's right.
And then if you like, you can. That's vegan.
Then you can crack the egg.
And then you crack some eggs in it if you're not vegan.
It's a fantastic dish, and it's so simple. So to that point, I mean, it stands alone on it as a dish that is well known in Turkey and the like, as do fritters. And there seems to have been an evolution since the first time you wrote a vegetarian book, for example, from vegetarian implying sides, and then the evolution went toward vegetarian being a vegetable-like thing of the meat.
I hate that.
Right? Yeah, like a veggie patty, like a veggie burger patty or a veggie.
Well, I can sort of.
Whereas there are these amazing dishes that are just vegetables.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think I've always thought veg, well cooked. The trouble with carnivores is because they love meat so much.
Yeah.
We tend to, as meat eaters, make the meat the star, and then the veg is just added for a bit of protein, for a bit of vitamins or for colour, and it just is boiled and on the side, or it's a salad.
Yes.
Which is nice, but not as nice. It's just not giving veg a chance. I mean, if
never the starring role.
If you put a few herbs or spices or garlic or whatever in there, it really makes a difference.
100%.
So I'm for veg being the star.
I'm excited to get into that book because I do like to get into more veggie things. There are a number of fans who want to tell you a few things. So,
good.
Rebecca, good morning, Rebecca from Port Elizabeth. Hi, listening from so far. Says, hello, Prue. I'm super excited to listen to your interview. I was wondering if you could offer some insight from your experience on the direction you feel desserts and pastries will move over the next 5 years. How will the drive for sustainable eating practices and nutrition-conscious cooking, paired with the social media heightened need for visually stunning food, contribute to what one might expect to be offered by top restaurants and chefs? Plus, equally importantly, what is your most favorite meal that you can remember eating, and who was it made by? Many thanks.
Right.
And then you'll leave your invoice when you go, because this is clearly a consulting question.
Well, as to where pastries and desserts are going, I don't think they're going. I think they will continue to be a treat.
Yeah.
I mean, for a pastry chef to not use eggs, cream, butter, all these things is very difficult.
Absolutely.
Much more difficult than in main course cooking. Of course, there are some wonderful vegan pastries, but it's not the same as having dollops of creme fraiche on it.
Absolutely.
So I think we'll go on eating those things but more and more as a treat. I mean, I think already people are beginning to. I almost never have a dessert in a restaurant. I just have the main course.
Right.
And I certainly don't make them at home, except ice cream, because my husband is he has ice cream radar. He could be in the middle of the Mongolian desert and he would find an ice cream. He has to have one every day.
Wonderful.
So I do make ice cream.
From scratch, of course you do.
Yeah.
And then, hi Prue, I still use your toad in the hole recipe in your book, gifted to me in 1986.
Good
wow.
Lord.
I was 5. That's from Richard. He says, I actually had it last night. Very happy birthday. Warm regards from Richard. How lovely is that? And then, hello, Refilwe. Please ask Ms. Prue if she does custom-made specs. Oftentimes, the arms of the specs are too short for me. I'm interested in a pair of men's tortoiseshell specs. Okay, so tortoiseshell is not on the cards. We're doing colour.
We do tortoiseshell.
Or you mix it.
Yes, I've got a pair with tortoiseshell on the top and then bright blue underneath.
This one. This is my fave, yeah.
That's lovely.
Okay.
Do you know, I honestly don't know. I mean, most optometrists will bend the arms to shorten them.
Yes.
You know, they put them over a heated lamp and then bend them.
The plastic softens.
But I don't. I think that would have to happen in the optometrists.
Yes.
So I honestly don't know. I don't know what happens in South Africa.
All right, but these are very special glasses. And for those of you listening, specifically you who would like a pair over there, you could win a pair of spectacle frames of your choice from the Prue by Ron It First collection. All you need to do is send us your best baking or food pun. I'll be judging, and you could win that pair of specs. Stay tuned and send that to 0725671567. Prue, it's been such a pleasure having you in studio. I look forward, it flew by. I can't believe it's already gone. I look forward to getting the specs, getting the cookbook, and getting back into some of your older cookbooks as well. All the best for your stay here in SA.
Thank you very much, Refilwe.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Time for your news.